beautiful morning to you out there. The program is the Dailies on Echo Television International, where we'll be looking at various stories, especially looking at the back and forth, especially regarding the forgery of the result, where we are seeing Tinubu is also accusing Atiku of result forgery. So you sit tight as we take you down through other stories that are also trending on our paper this morning. I am Sarah Shadasham and Rachel Tanz is right here with me. Good morning.
Good morning, Sarah.
Remember, please, viewers, we're live on Facebook. You can do well to follow us live there. Drop your comment or your contribution on any of the story that is of interest to you. And we will go straight into the paper, starting with the leadership newspaper.
On leadership newspaper, abducted corps members spent 59 days in captivity. This is still in Zamfara State. You can find details on page 10. NEMA clarifies flood alert in seized data shows possible flooding. We have trending Shetima to represent Tinubu in Beijing, and we have a numbers federal government states to distribute 4,000 megawatts. You can find details of both stories on page 2. Cardoso may abandon anchor borrowers, e-naira and currency redesign. You can find more details on the front page and continue on page 7. $500 million World Bank loan meter manufacturers move to stop TCM. Israel advances toward Gaza City, asks residents to leave. Tinubu to declare editors confab open in New York State. You can find details on page 4. Atiku defense name change from Siddiq. You can find details on page 6. Northern governors Apabio, Beru, condole Lawan over mother's death. You can find details on page 18. The big story on the paper, election petitions. Appeal court transfers cases to Abuja and Lagos as APC, PDP, Labour Party protest interference. Cases in 19 northern states taken to FCT, appeals in 17 southern states move to Lagos, and that's all the news on leadership newspaper.
All right, let's take a look at this day newspaper with other stories on it, where we have Shetima leaves for Beijing to attend Road Initiative Forum for International Cooperation. The writer following that story says to also participate in African Development Bank, World Food Prize facilitated international dialogue in the USA. Detail of that story can be found on the front page and on page 5. Stand chart report, Nigeria and others export may hit $1 trillion by 2035. You want to know more of that, do well to find more inside the paper. And coming from Ganduji, we will protect APC's mandate in Nasarawa State. We will remember that the appeal court there declared the candidate of the PDP as a winner for the election. But here we're seeing APC saying they will protect their mandate in Nasarawa. You can do well to read more detail of that story on page 5. Enough is enough. Pope Francis wades into Israel-Gaza war, with the writer says humanitarian law must be respected. Gaza hospital overwhelmed as shedding continues. Israeli forces ready for ground invasion. And then Hamas critique by Palestinian Abbas removed from comments. You can find more of what's happening there between the Israel and Gaza fight. And we have a picture story here too, of course, on the front page of the paper. You can do how to grab this there and read any other story that is of interest to you.
On Vanguard newspaper, marketers short filling station as scarcity spreads to Lagos and environs. This is still on petrol. You can find details on page 9. Tinubu to preside over FEC today. Ohaneze to meet Tinubu over Nnamdi Kanu. And an Israel-Hamas war. U.S. woos Saudi, Egypt orders to pressure Hamas to free hostages. Annual editors confab experts to probe state of economy. The big story on Vanguard, 21 states owe 790 billion naira inherited pensions and gratuities. The writer saying Rivers, Benue State top list with 119 billion naira, 100 billion naira. Southwest Niger Delta regions have 265 billion naira, 225 billion naira. What we are doing to offset arrears statement coming from states. Serap to Apabio and Abbas don't regulate social media. And on Guba polls remove emo rec to avoid Adama affairs. Co-PDP tells INEC. You can find details on page 8. Foreign investment in manufacturing up 88% to $861 million. Federal government target 2 million barrel per day oil production to boost revenue. And forex coming from the minister. There is a column from Awe Lakem found page 16 and also sports on page 30. We have a picture story showing the Oba of Benin at a Moro festival. And that's all the news on Vanguard newspaper.
A look at Blueprint newspaper, starting with a big story on Blueprint, where we have certificate controversy. Tinubu fights back, alleges forgery against Atiku with the writer, says ex-VP school certificate bears Gonjuli and Sadiq. Don't drag me into forgery arena, Atiku replies. More of that can be found on page 6. Reject social media regulation bill, Serap tells Sapabio and Abbas. More of that story can be found on page 5. EFCC arranged Mama Boko Haram, 2 others for 150 million naira fraud. Ijon Yudlon Tinubu NNPC on Tatita pipeline contract renewal. Other story on the front page of the paper, we have solid minerals will become Nigeria's biggest revenue hub. Coming from the Minister of Solid Minerals, Alake. You can find that story on page 25. Also, we are having Israel-Hamas conflict pushes crude oil prices above $90 per barrel, where we've been having the prices between 94 and 95. You can do well to find more detail of that story on page 24. $1.5 billion World Bank loan. Refocus fiscal policy, mobilize domestic revenue, expert tells the federal government. Warn against taking Nigeria to Buhari era. You can find detail of that story on page 6. We also have picture story here where we can see the chairman of the Independent National Electoral, Professor Mamu, observing the biometrics exercise. Remember that there was going to be an exercise for all the polling units and also the bio machine, so we can see that taking place over there. You can do well to grab the blueprint and read any other story that is of interest to you.
On Nigerian Tribune, World Food Day, Nigerians groan over persistent increase in price of food. Sees government support for farmers to boost production. Experts suggest ways to attain food sufficiency. FX restrictions removal on 43 items. Policy change will promote orderliness, professional conduct. Statement coming from LCCI. New policy will force down price of cement. A statement coming from producers. Reps take delivery of new SUVs. Vehicle are work tools coming from Reps leadership. You can find details of their statement on page 28. The big story on the paper, Bayelsa Kogi Imo elections, PDP Labour Party disagree with APC over INEC's assurance. Opposition parties raised out over e-transmission of results. We are still traumatized by February poll experience. Trust INEC at your peril, Okori Abga won candidate. We won't accept result declaration not electronically transmitted. Statement coming from PDP. INEC will do what it promised. A statement coming from APC. Kaduna appeal. Ubasani PDP candidate lists 38 errors by tribunal. Annual editors confab economic experts to interrogate state of economy. Tinubu expected to declare conference open in New York State. You can find more details on page 25. Although APC PDP trade wars over Akeredolo's absence and planned mayhem. Still on Nigerian Tribune, Tinubu gives reasons why Supreme Court can't accept Atiku's fresh evidence concerning the CSU certificate. Alteration in my name well documented, Atiku tells Tinubu. Says revelation at U.S. court deposition tip of the iceberg. You can find more details on page 22, and that's all the news on Nigerian Tribune.
No, Richard, I was trying to look closely at this World Food Day, knowing the fact that every 16th October is being celebrated as World Food Day. And then we've seen that over the years, the government, starting from previous administration have been saying how we can secure food. Let's not run into the issue of food insecurity. In as much as we are fighting insurgents, we also have to look into having food security. Now, the question in mind will be, how much of food do we have in the country? Because I remember clearly during the Russia-Ukraine fight, we had so much grievances. A lot of people were crying that we don't have grains, we don't have cereal, and you begin to wonder. So all this while we have been depending, and this I had to cast my mind back to the fact that just on Friday we saw in the paper where the borders have been open for over 43 items that will be coming into the country, and some of those food items also include rice. We saw maize, palm oil, and all of that. Now, this calls for an inner review of our own food security in the country. Part of the things the president did when a lot of Nigerians were crying about hunger was making sure that he sent grains to the state, which of course some states are yet to see, because if they have seen, it's expected that they made, and I think that's part of the thing Labour is trying to fight, the fact that a lot of people are yet to get the palliative that are supposed to be given to them. And then let's take a look at inflation, that we cannot even rule out the fact that it's because of the costs of food prices have actually led, especially food prices. Let's not even talk about transportation and the rest of it. Food price is actually what is actually the contributing factor for why we keep having the prices going up. And then over there, we've seen that we are part, when you talk about production of onions and rice, we are part of those countries that we can actually brag and say we are producing these things in bulk, but yet there tend to be hunger in the land. Now, what do you think is part of the reason why we keep having it, despite the fact that we still have them in excess to some extent, but then yet it's not made available? So it's one thing for us to be farming it, it's another thing for it to be accessible and available to Nigerians.
First of all, Sele, we might have it in bulk, but we're not farming it in excess yet. Until we get to the point where we farm in and out of season, until we get to the point where there is no season that tomato is cheaper or more expensive, or there is no season that onions is cheaper or more expensive. Until we get to that point in time, then that is when we can actually say that we are farming it in excess and we are farming it enough. And when it comes to food sufficiency, there's a lot of things in play. And I mean, we all know what should be in play, and of course is boosting our agriculture. It's all about mechanized farming, it's all about food science, it's all about everything that is in place. It's all about adopting different and various methods of farming, rather than the kind of farming methods we have as it is now. It's still farmer, hand to mouth, hand to market. We don't, even for the few that are produced enough for it, for storage and all of that, they are only very few crops that we can boast and say we have them enough and we keep them. And even at that, we still have periods that are very expensive and you find it cheap and all of that. You even go to the market and you have marketers using English like, do you want new beans or old beans? Do you want new granite or old granite? And automatically when they start asking you that question, you know it means different price of the good that you're looking for. So for us to have food sufficiency, we have to farm like how other countries are farming, that they have enough sufficiency of food. And of course, it's not that we lack the land. That's not it. It's not like we don't have the fertile ground. That's not it. It's not like we don't have the variety of the food. That's not it. In fact, even if we don't have certain seeds, you import those seeds and you plant them. You find regions that the climate supports the growth of certain crop exactly, and then you develop all methods of farming and then you farm those things. It's just about investing rightly into economy and then boosting that which we already have enough for us to even be able to balance our trade, where we have beans, we have rice, we have Irish potatoes, we have maize, we have any region that have all of these things. It's all about the government putting in more for them to be able to produce it excessively, to the extent that we could, when we have balance for the food we have, then we will start looking at how we can start bringing in what we don't have. But we're yet to get to that level, so we will still be looking at food insecurity in this country for a very long while. We'll still be looking at inflation. We will still be looking at all the challenges that are around food security, and until we grow to that level, and I believe that we have a government that is willing to go to that level. If our president is vice president is going out for such conferences and seminars to know what is obtainable globally as concerning food sufficiency, then I'm hoping that he brings that back and then they begin implementation. It's not just about traveling the world and coming back and doing nothing about it. We need to see you coming back and taking actions immediately.
Well, let's take a look at the Punch newspaper, starting with a big story. Federal government may spend 3.27 trillion naira on palliatives and loan. 50 million households get 1.13 trillion naira for 3 months, 125 billion naira for MSMEs and others. We have BWDs demand more palliative from Sanwo-Olu. Kwara IDPs get relief materials. You can find more inside the paper. Tinubu swears in new ministers as fake meets today. Actually, they meeting the whole last week, so they will be holding a fake meeting today. You can do well to find more detail of that story inside the paper. Naira under pressure, Nigeria may seek dollar loan. This is coming from the IMF. You can find what does that entail to our economy. Find more of that story on page 30. Fuel import groups 843 billion naira. Stakeholders lament inactive refineries. You can find more of that story on page 2. And I hope this is a wake-up call for our government to fix our refineries as soon as possible. Other stories on the Punch, we have other story here that say editors invite Tinubu to discuss economic crisis at all your conferences. Pastor, 3 others caught with human score in Ogun State. You can find more of that story on page 4. Still on the issue of Israel, Hamas, Pope, China, UK demand end to civilian casualties. More of that story can be found on page 19. And that's all on the Punch newspaper.
On the Nation newspaper, economy takes center stage as fake meat. It's time to fix Lagos Abeokuta Expressway, says Akpabio. Nigerian equities post third highest global returns. Experts to examine economy at editors annual confab. You can find details of both story on page 18 and 26. IMF backs bid to cut inflation. Is debt burden by countries? We are mediating between creditors, debtors, nations, says fund president. You can start with the details on the front page and continue on page 28. Former Niger Delta warlords unite against oil theft. Why Supreme Court can't admit Atiku's CSU evidence, statement coming from President Tinubu. President files reply to ex-VP's bid. BBC insists CSU certificate not forged. U.S. to avert escalation of Israel-Hamas war. We have Way and Bokai neck on neck in Liberia poll. 30 drowned, 167 missing in Congo boat accident. You can find details of this happening on page 8. And at the downside of the paper, we have foreign reserves halt 5-month decline, and then Blue Rail line now electric. And that's all the news on the Nation newspaper.
On New Telegraph newspaper, CBN external debt service GOB 100. Okay, I take that story on CBN. External debt service GOB $1.81 billion in 7 months. Detail of that story can be found on page 3. And Israel-Gaza conflict will escalate global oil prices, with detail found on page 26. On the issue of the Guba poll, we will hold you to your word on RFPDP, tells Yakubu. You can find more of that inside the paper. Federal government push for global anti-craft court split lawyers. And True Battle kidnappers rescue 4 abducted FUG students. You can find more on page 3 and 6. Lagos State government seal hospital for transfusing patient with on-screen blood. You can find more of that on page 7. I think it's high time the governor of Lagos State really does something about this. It was still that same state where we had the issue of a boy whose intestine was being removed. Now we are having also that a hospital was actually being sealed because of transfusing patient with an on-screen blood. Where I think this calls for a lot of caution, not just in Lagos State, but in every other state. You can find more detail of that particular story on page 7. Standard tests, NCAA to ground deficit airport, where we are having says non-certification cost Nigeria. ICAO audit explain why Lagos, Abuja, aerodromes lost rating. Kaduna fights stoppage, more of security issue coming from Nuhu. You can find that on page 3. Sheitima to represent Tinubu at the 3rd BRI Forum in China. And a research group to government, Diraska increased government presence to check violence in the southeast. Apabio, Abbas, Kalu and others console Lawan over mom's death. Also, we have how power play causes 21 deputy governors impeachment, resignation in 21 years. Reps confirm purchase of operational vehicles, decry exaggeration. You can find more of that on page 4 and 25. Downside, we also have a study on page 27, which you can do well to grab the paper and read more of that study and any other story that is of interest to you.
On the Daily Times, while federal government must slow down borrowing amid fresh $1.5 billion loan facility ranks 4th on World Bank borrowers list. The big story, Japan, how we work outside Nigeria returned penniless. Statement coming from youth, I'll never go back, any job in Nigeria better. We escape death by whiskers. I returned with illness, not money. We are having Nigerians lamenting and more saying, I did not stay long because what I heard was far from truth. I traveled out of ignorance. I was told that life is simple there, but what I saw is the opposite. I believe this is a warning for Nigerians that are desperately trying to go out there. The narrative is not same for everybody, and before you go out, do your research, know where you're going to sell it, because not every part of the world is safe. I know we feel that everywhere is better than Nigeria, but the truth is not it. We are having an economic crisis, we are having insecurity, we are having a lot going on, but it's not every part of the world that is better than Nigeria. So don't rush to go to anywhere. First of all, be documented properly. Be going where with a proper document that your government will know, and even the government of the country you're going will be accountable for you, and anybody can step in. Let your family know where you're going about, and above all, just know that the narrative is beginning to change. And whether you like it or not, Europe, America, Asia don't have much to offer to Nigerians like 20 years back. Time is changing. They are also facing inflation. They are also facing economic crisis. They are also facing unemployment. Whether we like it or not, there is a global economic crisis. So there isn't that much that like other countries have to offer to us like it used to be before. So you have to be very careful, because you might find yourself at the wrong side of whichever country you think is way better than Nigeria.
Reading the story, I couldn't help but smile.
Yes.
And my smile was based on the fact that, do you remember when we were saying, when you japa and come back? And this is the situation. A lot of people are japaing back into the country. Yes, of course, you feel that Nigeria is not suitable, you do not have employment. But then, did you sit back to actually plan before leaving? Because most of the people who come back with such testimony are people who left undocumented, are people who just felt, I just want to leave Nigeria without a plan.
Yes.
You do not have any professional course, you don't do anything, you just went to nothing whatsoever, and you feel that when you go there, you want to become a liability to that country.
No.
Because that is just it right here, Rachel. When you leave Nigeria without anything tangible or any plan, believe you me, you are going there to become a liability and not a source of maybe something that you can add up to the economy. Believe you me, everywhere, not even just Europe, anywhere, whether Asia, wherever you find yourself, they're looking for problem solvers. But a lot of people are going there to cause problems. Till date, we are waiting for, then, okay, we are in the first week, right? I remember reps have given the committee, the chairman for diaspora and others to check into Nigerians, over 250 there in Ethiopia. Of course, based on the reason we have was because they used Ethiopia as an exit point. But Rachel, we're yet to find detail about what happened, because I refuse to believe that 250 Nigerians are helping because of using exit point. A lot of people have used exit point. If you are going to India, you have to stop in Dubai before going to India. How come Nigerians have not been helped there? Now, this is a question. When you don't live with any plan, believe me, you will definitely jackpot that and come back to Nigeria. And we're not telling you to come back and cause problem for us. Make sure that now that you have, your eye have been open to the fact that you went there coming back with an illness, not with money to protect your family members, that we will be careful. We had the issue of those who went to Libya, and then Nigeria keeps spending their resources to bring them back. We're having other people being held. The issue of the Sudan crisis that we had, the only people we saw the figure were those who were documented. How about Nigerians that were not being documented, that left illegally to other countries? So this is an eye-opener for all of us. It actually looks greener from where you are. Until you get there, you realize that it's not as green as it looks from where you are.
It's not like traveling to Kaduna State to go and stay with your auntie for 6 months while you job hunt. It's not like that. You're living a totally different country with how things work there differently. Even 30 years ago, we had family members who left and didn't find it easy at the beginning. When they went there, the people they thought could help them was showing them toilets to go and wash. And they had to struggle because at that time, things were a little bit easier. Migration was not as bad as it is. Authorities didn't put this much eye. But now with the way things have changed, the kind of dirty job you would be sure to do, you would have preferred you stayed back home, be drinking your groceries, and feel more comfortable.
I love the way you change the name, you know.
Exactly, Stella, and then you'll be better than what you face. If you don't have a plan, please don't jump out. If you don't know what you're doing, don't just move out for moving out sake. Be sure that you are going there in a way that you yourself, you know that it's an intelligent move, and at all odds, things will play out well for you.
Of course, of course. Well, I think this will be a story that Nigerian government will be happy that a lot of people are coming out. But don't become a liability now that you're back into the country.
Still on the Daily Times newspaper, alleged billionaire drug baron now in NDLEA net. Another arrested suspect offered $300,000 bribe for freedom. Enugu Guba CSOs demand investigation of public officers NYSC certificate. Reps to ensure FCC equitably spreads federal government employment. You can find more details on page 10. Plugging fiscal holes in a choked economy, is Adeni up for it? You can find more details of this question on page 5. And at the downside of the paper, Bayelsa Kogi Imo polls will reject any results transmission that's not electronic. A statement coming from PDP, and we are watching out to see what INEC will do about this. You can find details on page 2, and that's all the news on the Daily Times newspaper.
Right, before we continue with other paper review, we'd love to take a break at this moment. Quite a number of stories on the paper. Nigeria.
Hello viewers, my name is Amaka Ocheke.
Testing what it feels like to leave Nigeria and actually come back. We're having the back and forth also coming from Tinubu and Atiku, where Tinubu is also accusing Atiku of result forgery. And then we are having today being the World Food Day, where we are having the vice president will be leaving to China to represent the president. So when we come back, we'd love to hear what your own feedback is, what your contribution is about any of the stories. Please stay tuned with us.
Hello viewers, my name is Amaka Ocheke. We anchor the program, The Living Room, right here on Equa TV International.
You are welcome to watch us every Monday.
The Living Room is a very interesting family program where we discuss everything you want to know about family.
Talk about our children's mental health.
Keep watching. Our program is always here, 5:30 every Monday. We want you to ask questions. We want you to phone in and drop topics that you want us to talk about, even on our media handle on Facebook. We're there. So keep watching, keep listening. The Living Room.
Thanks for staying tuned. It's still the Dailies. We've been looking at a number of stories on the paper. If you're just tuning in, where we've seen the back and forth coming from Atiku and Tinubu. Nigerians who have dropped out of the country are coming back to say what it feels like to leave the country. And also today being the World Food Day, we're saying that the Vice President will be traveling out of the country to represent the President in China. So we'd love to hear what your own contribution is concerning any other story that is of interest to you that has dropped on the paper. I still have Rachel Tanza with me in the studio. Thank you so much, Rachel. All right, the phone numbers are actually open at this moment. Our number is on your screen. You can do well to call us, and we'd love to hear what your own contribution is concerning any of the story. Please do remember, turn down the volume of your TV set. When you call us, try to summarize your point in a minute, so other callers can also get the room to air their views. And we will be looking at the next paper before your calls come in. The Voice of Liberty. Tinubu to hold fake meeting with ministers today. You can do well to look up that story inside the paper. Borno Zamfara, we have NEF strike, kill terrorists and destroy gun trucks. You can find more in the paper. Sheitima to represent Tinubu at forum in China. No warning before next strike, Labour tells the federal government. The Trade Union Congress have said the suspension of its October 1st nationwide strike was a temporary move. So you can do well to grab the paper and see what they mean to do or what they hope to do this time around. Other stories still on the paper, the issue of brain drain. Federal government to engage retired media practitioners. This is coming from the health minister. We saw that story from last week, where because of the hands that is needed. All right, we have a call. Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So, Shaman calling from Kaduna, Sele, and my sister Rachel. Good morning. How are you today?
We're great, sir. Thank you so
Honestly,
much.
Your discussion on board is touching. Nigerians were always faced with challenges. The leaders that were elected into power are having conflict within themselves. Issue of certificate and whatever. As I said the other time, it's not the problem of Nigeria. What we are passing through Nigeria is difficulty and hardship, insecurity and whatnot. So I would have advised they should get themselves together so that they move the country forward. Enough of our suffering. We did not elect them for them to battle themselves. They are of age that are supposed to understand themselves. They are not youth. All of them are above 60 or 70 years. I expect that by their ages, they're supposed to get themselves together so that the country will move forward. Since 2015 till now, everybody knows it that Nigeria are fighting hard to make a living. Livelihood is not easy to come by. So I urge Nigerians to get themselves together so that the country will move forward. Come to think of the issue of palliative. Can you imagine the trillions of naira these people are planning for palliative? Look at what that was shared in the place of rice. In my community, in Kaduna, Kol and Wambulus, Kaduna, we are more than 700 in population, but the entire community was given 702 bags of rice to share. And you can imagine what can cost to a community. Even the village head didn't like to show himself because he felt who will he give and who will not give. So if these people think the country desires any palliative, they would have, channel that palliative toward relieving Nigerians on the issue of petroleum and other communities. Let us have instructions on ground, not for them to buy foodstuff and shout for people. I pray Nigeria will get it right. Good morning, my sisters.
Thank you so much, Shema, for your contribution. Still on the Voice of Liberty, we have Hamas-Israel war. Israel acting beyond scope of self-defense. This is coming from China. You can find more detail of that story in the paper. Social media, not Nigerians' problem. Reject bill to regulate it. Serap urges National Assembly. 2 months after terrorist attack, flight to resume at Kaduna Airport. You can find more detail of that story, and that's all on the Voice of Liberty.
On Nigerian News Direct, it's 100% loyalty to Governor Abiodun or nothing if Ogun must develop. This is a statement coming from the Basco telling appointees. Osun APC Adeleke fight dirty over federal government fuel subsidy palliative. Federal government eyes $1.5 billion World Bank loan to finance budget deficit as minister pledges to respect CBN autonomy, ways and means borrowing limit. UBA to launch Fighting Fraud Together campaign to protect customers. Senate assures Ogun government of support to fix Lagos Abeokuta Expressway and others. You can find details on page 23. Wale Edun emerges as chairman of African Governors Forum. FCTA directors hail Tinubu Wike over creation of Civil Service Commission. Greet by Obari Gomba wins $100,000 NLNG prize for literature. You can find details on page 3. And at the downside of the paper, federal government launches 3 MTT programs, targets technical training of 30,000 Nigerians in 3 months. And that's all the news on Nigerian News Direct.
On Daily Independent, the world know you are a forger. Atiku tackles Tinubu. Says his change of name well documented. This is coming from Atiku. Annual editors confirm economic expert integrate state of economy. Annual editors confirm economic expert integrate state of economy. NGE invite Tinubu to declare conference open in Oyo. Sam Amuke as chairman. You can find more of that story in the paper. Return to manage flood way out of Naira crisis. This is coming from expert. No law ending HND degree holders dichotomies yet. This is coming from the NUC. Serap urges Apabio Abbas to reject social media regulation bill. Middle East war could widen beyond Israel, Hamas, US official wants. You can find more of that story on page 6. Stranded Nigerians in U.S. over non-issuance of passport called on federal government to intervene. Hello, good morning.
Of Atiku and Tinubu. That forgery or no forgery is not our problem now. The problem on ground is that Nigerians are suffering, and Tinubu should do the needful and elevate Nigerians from this suffering rather than Atiku and the rest. That is not our problem. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you so much for your contribution on that story. Stranded Nigerians in U.S. over non-issuance of passport call on federal government to intervene. And Rachel, you see what we are talking about, people living without proper documentation. And right now, Nigerians feel that you can actually leave the country without being documented, and then you call on the federal government to save you. Maybe the federal government needs to start setting lessons with certain people by leaving them over there, because it's getting out of hand, where here we are looking for a loan because of our budget for next year, because we do not have enough. And here we're having Nigerians without talking about non-issuance of passports. So how did you get there in the first place?
I think, Salah, for these people specifically, it's a case of sometimes you travel, then your passport expires, and then you depend on your country to issue you ones for you to continue. And then we're seeing that it's taking a while.
Right, let's take this call. Hello.
As of issue of borrowing 1.something billion dollars for finance budget. No, this borrowing is even affecting our economy. It's not going on. Who is going on borrowing is only going on borrowing. And we're saying that the dollar is jumping up, trying to destroy the value of Naira. It's because we depend much in terms of importation and borrowing. We should at least strategize how we not borrow. Because the previous government who borrowed much, and these people are now going to buy idea of borrowing again. Where issue of this palliative of 18 and removing fuel subsidy. You should remove this subsidy, result that we get much money to finance our government. Now we remove this subsidy, and they say that they want to remove some subsidy to get much money to put other sectors so that they will reach other. They will now run other sectors. Now you remove the subsidy, get much money, and people in Nigeria. We should borrow to remove that subsidy. But now we say that there's a money, we want to remove subsidy and get much money to run the governance. So now we are now going to borrow again. There's no money we got from the subsidy removal. Issue of and this of certificate issue, that one is left for us. I don't talk about that one, but they were showing the whole world that Nigerian leaders sometimes their credentials should be tied up. They should cover something. They should not expose themselves in that way. They should know how to do that one. I'm not in the court. All these those are important. I said we can talk about. I'm talking about stressing it. Borrowing. Borrowing and remove some to understand it. You remove something and get much money. Are you only going to borrow? That is my submission. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Richard, you're shedding more light on the
yes,
issues.
concerning the passport. So sometimes they go and then they're living there quite okay, well documented, but then the passport expires and then they have to wait for passport renewal, and sometimes it takes a long period of time. And we saw where there was a backlog of over 200,000 passports, where we saw the minister saying that they have cleared those backlog, but I want to believe that the process is still ongoing on, and then these people, because you know some things are very sensitive. The moment your passport expires in another country, for countries that are really tight concerning who is in the country, they would be on your toes concerning it. And I believe this one is kind of a peculiar case because they need to wait for passport renewal, and perhaps it's taking long, and then they are stranded because it means your rights on other things will be revoked, be it if you are on a license for maybe study or work. They will begin to ask you for such to continue
Hello,
working.
good morning.
We have a call.
Hello.
Good morning.
Good morning. This is Mr. Stevie calling from Benue State.
Good morning, Mr. Steven.
I want to tell you people that the government, the federal government and the legislatures,
please can you turn down the volume of your TV set,
removal
sir?
of police from PECO. You cannot force people into a system that they don't want. Into a system that they don't want. How can somebody suffer a job of life and death for 35 years or 60 years, and you place them on PECO, which is not their wish? And some of us supposed to be receiving 100,000 a month. They are giving some of us 17,000 a month. And Aisha, director of PECO, is using money, bribing people not to remove us from PECO. That woman will suffer more than this if she doesn't take time. He bribed the former federal government official, Boss Mustafa, 500 million. It was Radio Berekete that brought out the news. Until today, they didn't investigate that matter. Nigeria will burn one day if they put pensioners into this problem. Some of us are supposed to receive about 20 million of our gratuity. They give us 3.8 million and now paying us petty money, suffering everybody. There is no family in Nigeria that don't have one person in the police. The time they remove armed forces, why should they remove police? They should take wise for security to be standard in Nigeria. They should take care of the police, because police are every look at cranny of the country fighting security. Thank you. God bless you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for your contribution. Well, Rachel, were you done with the issue of
yes,
insurance?
I was done. And at the same time, this is also a very because I think we've had this caller a number of times concerning it, and of course, do the needful. I believe we've mentioned it countless times here on the show, Sele. Don't give security operatives a reason to be corrupt. Play your own part and then put them in the position where if they dare be corrupt, you say, we've given you this, we've given you this, we've given you that. You have no reason whatsoever. Therefore, you handle them with iron hands when it comes to corruption, because you know as the government of Nigeria, you've played your role, and therefore there can't be any tolerance whatsoever when any officer misbehaves. But hearing things like that, no wonder when people are finding themselves in the system where they know that they have nothing to walk home with, we wouldn't be surprised. I'm not giving any excuse for anybody to be corrupt, but of course not everybody is out there working with a mind of dignity. Some are sitting down and are thinking, what am I going to do to secure my future, looking at the kind of system I'm into, and whether we like it or not, these are and other factors. One of the reasons why we are having the kind of police we have in this country. So I just hope that the government wakes up and take their responsibilities and do the needful regarding pension for police officers in this country.
Richard, you remember when we were looking at the Vanguard, we saw the big story on the Vanguard where it said that 21 states are owing 790 billion naira inherited pension, including gratuity. So that is to tell you that not only are we having even the security, because the caller was talking about the police, and just like you lay emphasis on the fact that over the year we've seen that quite a number of policemen are not being paid that like they should. But then what excuse do we give to even the Civil Service Commission, where we have a lot of people have actually retired, and for the past 2 to 3 years their file is nowhere to be found, not even to talk about processing it to start giving them what rightly belongs to them. Mind you, the pension is not even the government giving them, it is your own money that was being deducted to save for you. And you begin to ask questions, so why do we have a particular system where things are not working well? And this calls for a restructuring of our system, because this is the only way we have that our security agencies are well taken care of. You remember I brought up an issue, a case whereby I said sometimes we see the security agents telling that even their uniform, they have to use their personal money to sew it. Meanwhile, it is expected that the government provides all of the basic things that they need to actually carry out their responsibility. So just like you said, we are not encouraging corruption, and we're pointing out to the people who are involved in that to please give this security agency whatever belongs to them. A lot of them have been retired, they have served their country, so why hold back what rightly belongs to them? Some of them, when you see them, you begin to ask, when you one time a police or a soldier, I mean, you don't look like you've ever served your country in any way. So I believe that with time, we are calling on the government, the proper agency, to look into all of this need. Let's quickly round up the story on Daily Independent. Benue governor lists how he will offset 359 billion naira inherited debts. You can find that on page 6. Analysts storm up AMCO's 10 years in aviation industry, queries intervention in Arik Air Aero contractors. One financial books of 2 airlines in public, more can be found inside the paper. NDLEA detained 2 wanted drug barons, nabbed 2 others for ingesting 171 wraps of heroin. You can find that on page 8. We have a picture story here where we can see part of the people, the flood, and also those who are living by the water area. This is in Ogun State. You can do well to grab the Daily Independent and read any story that is of interest to you. And I think, Rachel, that we have to end the show here. Thank you so much for doing this with me. Thank you to our callers who call on the program to actually, contribute meaningfully to the program. We're truly grateful. Thank you to the crew members and every other person that have been a supporter of Echo Television. Until we come here again, to have a blessed day ahead.